Welcome back to Market on Close. Shares of Bank of America are higher today after third quarter earnings came in above estimates. The company reported 43% growth in investment banking revenue and saw record net interest income. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan said, quote, with continued organic growth, every line of business reported top and bottom line improvements. Shares are up more than 15% on the year, right now trading more than 4% higher following their earnings. And that means it's time for Options Corner, where we're going to take a closer look at Bank of America in the wake of its earnings. Positive earnings from a lot of the big banks we've been seeing. Joining us to break it down is Rick Ducat, our lead market technician. So as we take a look at B of A specifically, just against the more broad market, how is it stacking up?
Doing pretty well overall. You know, Bank of America has had a really nice move in the past few sessions here, outperforming not only the S&P 500, but the broader XLF financial sector. Now, that's a pretty big group overall. It's a lot of different types of businesses in here. But if we look at the big banks overall, we've got Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citi, et cetera, all doing pretty well. Bank of America is actually the laggard of the group here. So, I mean, some of these bank stocks we've said, if you didn't know it was a bank stock, you'd almost think it was some kind of high-flying, you know, big, high volatility tech stock with the kinds of moves that we're seeing here. So overall, looking pretty good. And when we look, though, kind of more deeply, though, the biggest banks said the economy is still pretty sturdy overall. We're seeing good lending activity, corporate spending, deal making, et cetera here. But JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said, when you see one cockroach, there's probably more, kind of referring to the overall health of everything. So perhaps things are not as rosy as they seem right at this moment in the longer term.
And, you know, we'll get a broader picture of that, too, as we start to get the regional banks in and see how some of this is affecting them. You know, as we look more specifically just at Bank of America, knowing coming into this, they were the laggard. And we talked to CFRA about the bank earnings before they reported. And they said despite them being the laggard, they were still expecting a beat. They did get one. But, you know, as we look at their technicals and their charts, you know, what are they showing you?
And just because they're the laggard out of that group doesn't mean they're not doing well overall, too. Just another caveat to make there. But when we look at our chart action here, we can see our green line here was where we had a couple of high points and then a low point afterwards. So the old resistance became new support right around the $49 level or so. We can also see that our rising wedge type shape that started to form as we hit those highs near 52.88 dissipated. We had a downward sloping channel type shape between our two white dashed lines. I was kind of curious to see if we might get a head and shoulders type pattern that was forming up. It was looking like a setup that was pretty common that you see this type of pattern here. Doesn't look like it's going to come to pass, though. We would have expected price to stop here at this shoulder area near 51. That's where our previous shoulder was formed here. But we seem to have gone right back up to the top of that head there near the 53 level here. Haven't made our way back above that point, but you know, that was the high water mark so far today. Now, when we look at some of our other studies here, we can see our volume profile study shows that there's a node right here lining up with our 21-day EMA near about 50.50. So that could be a downside area to watch for support. There's another node right about here lining up with our +1 standard deviation channel near about 51.80. So those areas stood out in particular from a technical perspective.
And trading just a little higher than that 51.80 right now, about 52.30 for B of A. As far as options activity, you know, post earnings today, did we see normal volume, increased volume?
Heavier activity today, sizzle 2.7% versus the 5-day simple average of volume activity here for the options market. That translates to about 407,000 contracts changing hands today, 76% calls. For November 21st, 37 days out here, looking for about an 8% move plus or minus here. So the lower end of that range would come in fairly close here to our linear regression line, our line of best fit, also just below that 49 level that we highlighted earlier. So that seems to be an area where many traders would find they would expect the lower end of the range to be. But to the upside, fairly close to the +2 standard deviation channel, 55.42 versus 56.16. So that would be the general range that traders might be on the lookout for, especially if we get a break above those old highs.
And as far as open interest, calls versus puts, what are we seeing today? What were the traders favoring?
Yeah, the heavy open interest areas for November 21st, the highest on the call side is near 55. The highest on the put side is near 43. So 55 being, kind of near that area here. So a standout point by that metric as well. In terms of notable trades, there was 2 trades done as a spread today. It's a little bit unusual here. Plus 2,074 December 19th. 48 strike calls at a 570 debit, and also at the same time minus 2,147 January 15th, 2027 60 strike calls at a 345 credit. They seem like they were opening trades. There's no matching volume in the past year. They could be closing trades though on some level here, but about a $440,000 net debit paid here. We don't know what strategy they're doing exactly. Typically you would want to sell the shorter dated call and buy the longer dated one. In this case, as it stands, they might have an uncovered short position down the road if they don't have stock or anything.
Well, Rick, we appreciate you breaking down B of A post earnings for us for Options Corner and all of its options action.